What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today I have my guest, Charley Johnson. Hey, Charley Johnson.
Hey, man. Thanks for
How
having
you
me.
doing?
Good, good. Ready for this?
Are we going to get into people's consciousness today?
Always,
I
always.
love it. I love it. All right, brother. I'm just going to read your intro real quick and we'll get
Okay.
cooking. So,
All right.
everybody, we have Charley Johnson. His professional journey includes roles as a business owner, president of the Pay It Forward Foundation, and student of an enlightened teacher. He is now bringing the position of Chief Consciousness Officer to the forefront of the business world. As the shift on this planet accelerates and creates a new world for companies to navigate, his unique skill set will be crucial for the future success of employees and businesses. The same mind that created the problem will not be able to solve it. How executives and owners approach building in this new world will need to be viewed with a clearer mind. And this is what Charley will bring to the table. A chief consciousness officer will ask different questions, see things from a higher level, and be able to get the entire company into the newfound clarity in this newfound world. Charley is also the founder of Conscious Training, a program that allows every level of the organization, group, and individual the ability to tap back in the most powerful source this universe knows. And also, Charley is the author of Truth Have No Sides. Yeah,
See,
right on. Just went down the rabbit hole on that book, so we can get down into. But welcome, 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 Charley. I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but I'm obligated, contractually obligated by myself to ask the what if you could question. So I'm just going to ask that and shut up. So Charley Johnson, have you ever had a what if you could moment, a what if you could thought? Is there a what if you could that you'd love to share with the gang before we kick off?
what if what we're going to talk about on this podcast could shift 8 billion people? Because in my early 20s, I had a very simple upbringing, blue collar parents, no college education. And I was at some type of event, some type of class, and the speaker gave us 6 words. And they said 6 words. Didn't give us any structure, didn't give us anything to look back on. It was, I'm going to change the world. Okay. There's something deep rooted in me. And I actually, when you talked about the enlightened teacher, I actually spent many years with him trying to remove that because I thought that was wrong, right? Because the spiritual path talks about removing the ego, right? And the human mind's always a this or that. So what if consciousness becoming the center of humanity? What if a chief consciousness officer that becomes high, that's a position that's hired by every company, small, medium, large? What if that is the catalyst for changing 8 billion people? That's a big ask, but why not? So what if?
Yeah. Well, man, that's a massive ask. Um, let's touch on that ego for a second. Let's touch on that ego for a quick sec. Um, I mean, was the project, was it about you, how you're going to change the world, or what was the thought behind that, and why did you mention ego with that statement?
Because when you have awareness in this world and you spend time with a teacher like that, and you make comments like that, and those thoughts come up, it's only natural to say like, "Wow, dude, who the hell do you think you are?" Right? You shouldn't be saying shit like that. That's incredibly egotistical, right? And then you jump on the path with a teacher like I had, a teacher that people leave their families before and move to the Himalayas, and it really sinks in. Like, don't say shit like that. Don't say shit like that. But there was a great individual. I'm sure you've known him. I'm sure your listeners have heard of him by the name of Ram Dass. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him and Timothy Leary brought up LSD and all that back in the 60s, 70s, but then he became very heart centered. He had access to a teacher like mine. He did all the psychedelic trips. He had 20 years of meditation. He was around the highest level of individuals. And I remember him saying, after 20 years of my teacher, 20 years of meditation, 20 years of the spiritual path, not a single one of my neuroses went away. That changed everything for me because I spent 10 years trying to minimize my passion, my aggression, my ego. It's got to go. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. Here I am. Here I am. When I get really passionate about this, I use the word, for a lack of better words, aggression. I still have that something in me that when it's channeled through like this chief consciousness officer and the ball starts getting rolling, and that natural thing inside me is like, okay, the doors are opening. This is what you should be doing. It doesn't go away. And I have no reason to disbelieve why that feeling, that thought, those words have not been dampened. Because the ego, everyone talks about killing the ego. If I say, hey, Gary, you're going to turn and say, what's going on, Charlie? The ego doesn't go away. What we do is we bring awareness to it, like Ramdas said. Not a single one of my neuroses went away after everything he had. And everyone looks at him as a very heart centered teacher, very enlightened individual. He still had weaknesses. He still had things that drove him crazy. You look at the highest level teachers, Ramana, Nisargadatta, Adyashanti, all these guys, they have pain, they have suffering. The one smoked and drank and yelled at his students until the day he died. Like, we have an expectation, we have a perception of what the ego is and what it's, we have all of this conditioning, all of this bias, and we only hear what we want to hear. But there's something inside of me. There's just something that says there's going to be some massive shift, and whatever's channeled through you is going to be a part of it. And I tried to get rid of it. I really did.
So, I mean, that's the foundation of your book, right? I mean, these teachings and this mentor, this person that you're speaking, I mean, that's the foundation of your book, right? I mean, this is when you went deep into his teaching and kind of explaining that. And then looking in the book, it's funny, you kind of talk about it. It's a book with really no answers.
Yeah, that's why people don't like it. Because what we've done in the past is someone has read a book, got a teacher, done life coaching, done self development, and some third party, some authorities told them, this is what you should do. And it almost, in a sense, takes responsibility off them. We give them a direction, we give them 10 steps, we give them this. Well, we've been doing that since the beginning of humanity. How's it look? How's it working? We've never been more divided, conflicted than ever. We've never spent more money on obesity. We've never been more overweight. We got 10,000 books on happiness. We've never been so unhappy. We have more coaches and consultants talking about burnout and retention rate, and they've never been worse. What am I missing? Truly, what am I missing? So this book is just simply my experience through all the modalities of the spiritual path, which this position is not. Consciousness is not spiritual. It's everything. It's everything physical and non-physical. If you're religious, you're spiritual, you're Republican, you're Democrat, you're Catholic, you're atheist, the planet, your mind, your thoughts, your physical, it's all consciousness. This is not a spiritual thing. This is awakening people to the access they have, this vast resource that they are, because every piece of knowledge came from consciousness. Every piece of anything you've ever read, learned, thought about came from consciousness. Let's just give them the awareness and remind them of that.
Yeah. I just, I was literally having this conversation with a friend this morning, and I can't seem, for some reason, I I see it. It makes sense to me, right? But for some reason, people are so locked in. They're so dug in that they don't want to. I don't want to make that judgment statement, but I mean, it seems that people are having a challenge understanding the fact that there's so much manipulation that goes on, and that if you're prone to this side, that's all you want to hear. That's all you want to listen to. That's all you want to dig into because that's just where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about, which is being this open consciousness, it's like, no, there aren't sides. If I understand this, there aren't sides. You've got to look at the entire consciousness of what's going on, removing that. Is that where you're going with that?
So the question is, what's better, heads or tails of the coin? Most logical people would say they're the same. No shit.
Yeah.
So, Catholic or atheist,
Mhm.
Republican or Democrat, all the conflict, all the division is created because of that ignorance. Because in Utah, a very Mormon state, very religious state, if an individual is born to a very Mormon family but adopted by a Japanese family from day one, they're going to be Japanese, they're going to be Buddhist, and they're going to speak fluent Japanese. If someone in Texas to a super Baptist family is adopted by a Mormon family, they're going to be Mormon. Just that simple explanation shows you how biased and conditioned we are. If you're a Republican, you're going to watch nothing but Fox News. If you're a Democrat, it's nothing but CNN. Right? We it blows me away that this is still a thing in humanity because since the beginning of time, we have chosen a side naturally out of the fear of the mind. So we choose a side. We believe our side to be right, the other side to be wrong. And we believe at some point in the future, our side's going to win, the other side's going to be okay with that. We're going to move off into a utopic future. We have done this since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humanity. We have to try something different. But yet we just keep digging in deeper and deeper and deeper. No, no, I'm right. The other side's ruining the world. Well, they're right. They think they're right, and you're ruining the world. So what are we doing? Why is that such a big topic? Why is that not something we talk about? Why is this something that we just continuously just dig in our own bias and conditioning? So these conversations, the chief consciousness officer talking about consciousness, going one step deeper and saying heads and tails. You just told me heads and tails are the same. Okay, cool. The question is, where'd the coin come from? Where did all the gods come from? Where did all the religions come from? Where did all the politics come from? Where did your side come from? Well, your side came from the same place that the other side came from, and you think they're ruining the world and they're the devil. They think the same thing about you. How do we ever get anywhere? We don't. And because of the clarity on this planet right now, before creation comes destruction, we've never been more divided and conflicted. But again, we've never had more access to knowledge, to information, to books, to happiness, to retention rates, to burnout rate, to stress, all of this stuff. Yet it's getting worse because we're messing around with the leaf of a tree. Cut off a leaf, another one grows back. You cut off the root, it's done. Do you water the tree to make it grow by watering the leaves? No, you water the root. The root's consciousness. Trump or Biden, Republican or Democrat, Catholic or atheist, that's all just leaves of a tree. Now we keep spending time on there because that's all we know. And we'll cut one off. We'll figure stuff out. We'll cut the leaf off. Something else is going to grow back. And we continue to do that. We just keep doing that time and time and time again. So just bringing awareness to this, that's all. This is not about a spiritual path. This is not about enlightenment. This is not about consciousness being anything other than consciousness is Catholic, consciousness is atheist, consciousness is Republican, consciousness is Democrat. And we have a tool that's always known division. The mind is this or that, heads or tails. Well, heads and tails exist. Republicans and Democrats exist. Catholics and atheists exist. It's and everything exists. We just have to bring awareness to it because the one thing we have not done is the neutrality, bring awareness to it, talk about it, ask different questions. What we have done is we just try to convert people to our side. And then someone gets let down by that side and they go back to the other side. We've been doing this since the beginning. Could we just talk about something differently? Could we ask a different question? Could we try something different? That's all.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, we will we will throw out a statistic, or we will throw out an article, or we will throw an opinion piece from someone who supports your side
Always.
to say, I can prove that I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
Because read this person's article that they wrote to back up
Mm-hmm.
what I'm thinking. And I think,
Yes,
you think, well, I can find 10 polls and articles to prove what I'm thinking.
exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's just you sucking at the teat of what you believe and trying to convince me to move to the other teat. It's all really bullshit in
Yep.
essence. And in the meantime, what's going on above it all? What's going on below it all?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening while we're just distracted by all this nonsense, you know? And that's why I was just fascinated about the, consciousness training and the chief consciousness officer, someone who could come in and go, okay, you guys can all just stare and pull the lint out of your navels. That's all cool. But I've got to look up here. I've got to look at the bigger picture. I've got to get above all this noise and bullshit to kind of lead you or help you see things maybe in a more clarity.
Yeah, that's all it is. Neutrality. And it's not above them or anything like that. It's just simply saying when you choose a side, you basically alienate yourself from 50% of knowledge, 50% of solutions, 50% of questions, of answers, of helping people, of looking at things differently. NASA did a study where they followed 2,000 kids. At the ages of 4 and 5, 98%. By the time the kids were adults, it was less than 2%. If you don't think that impacts all 8 billion of us, then you don't know. They're like, no, we have this vast resource of consciousness, and then we're conditioned by the people who love us, by our teachers, by our parents, by our friends. No, you need to be, I'm Republican. I'm Catholic. I'm this. This is right. That's my moral code, which is completely against the other moral code, but theirs is against ours. And we just box ourselves off. So we say knowledge is power. But again, we've got to really understand what type of knowledge that is. If all we do is listen to Fox, then what are we going to be? If all we do is listen to CNN, then what are we going to be? If we're born in Utah, what's our conditioning going to be? If we're born in the East, what's our conditioning going to be? All of this conditioning and bias, we always, I don't understand why that's not more relevant. I mean, it's as clear as day because every time I have these conversations, no one disagrees with me. But when everyone gets pushed into a corner, everyone comes out swinging for their ideals, their beliefs. When they completely forget how much it's bias, the conditioning, how they were raised, what they were told by those who before them were just as divided and conflicted. So what do you expect to get? We just have to change this up. We have to bring awareness to
The reason people don't see it, Charlie, is because $1 trillion or more a year is spent to keep you from seeing it.
it.
I mean, the impact of you seeing it is so grave that the powers that be will do anything and everything to keep you from seeing it. They'll light cities on fire. They'll start wars in other places. They'll release pandemics. They'll do whatever it takes to keep you on your side, fighting like red ants and black ants in a jar, and not stopping to look and go, holy shit. It's almost like a sci-fi movie where just the dome opens up or something and everyone
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
stops and looks around and goes, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Where did all this come from? It's like, well, it's always been there. You just refuse to see it.
Well, and even I completely understand what you're saying, but even the way we look upon that creates the division because if we think our leaders are any different than us, they're merely a reflection of who we are. If they really did have control, if they really did understand things, if they would be doing things differently. They would be bringing us together rather than dividing us. They're just us as a politician. They're just us in a seat of power. They've been voted in. They're just a reflection. We're a reflection of them. They're a reflection of us. That's it. So even that creates us and them, but they're just us. They truly believe they're doing what's right. As asinine as that seems. Now, if you're on the Republican side, you truly believe Trump's doing what he's supposed to be doing. If you're on the Democratic side, you thought Biden was doing what he's doing. And if a war does start or they light a city on fire or what's going on in LA right now, if you're against it, then it's his fault. If you're for it, oh, it's just part of the process. But to think the leaders, I know everyone says it's evil and malicious and everything else. They're just a reflection of us. We voted them in. We talk about this. We're just as divided within our own families, within our own business. How do we treat our neighbor? How do we treat the person in the grocery store? How do we treat the person that cuts us off in traffic? If someone pushes us on our beliefs or our ideals, we'll light the city on fire ourselves. We will treat people like shit ourselves. So we're always pointing like it's their no, that's just a leaf of a tree. The root starts here with our consciousness. Once we extend that, once we understand that, we go from here with this very limited perception. Once we start to expand our awareness, we get to see shit. Maybe the other side's just like us. So it's an expansion of awareness and it's an understanding of consciousness. And not from a spiritual understanding. It's your mind, your thoughts came from consciousness. So go to the source. Let's just go one step deeper and see what happens when we expand our awareness. When we know better, we do better. It's just a subtle shift in awareness.
How does it start?
This, you allowing this conversation to be heard, you asking these questions, me answering them in a way that people have never heard. Truly, like the question of the coin. And everyone
Yeah.
laughs at that. It's like, oh, that's so childish. And yeah, I know, I get what you're saying. You do? Then why the hell you keep choosing sides? Why are you creating just as much division as and conflict on this planet that you think the other side's doing? But you told me, like everyone told me, you want to make things better for the next generation. Yes, I do. I love my kids. I want to leave it better. Okay. Well, you're creating just as much division and conflict as the other side. So these conversations, this awareness, plain and simple, because everyone thinks this or that. Is Charlie against me or for me? Neither. Even that comment right there at least expands. I'm like, what do you mean, neither? I'm not for you or against you. I'm making you aware that you're just like the other side that you despise, and vice versa. And the good things you do, the other side does just as good of things too. So what are we doing? We've got to bring awareness to this. So that's how this starts. Because what we've done in the beginning, if this was a super political one and we're on the Republican side, and you say, how does this start? Well, you just got to let people know how bad the Democrats are, and we got to let them know the understanding of, Trump is crazy, but we just got to be more clear on what his expectations are. If it was a very religious state, a religious podcast, how does it start? We got to let the atheists know how much God is really with them, right? It's just that. So it's always a one side thing. So these podcasts and these news like podcasts, I think they're great. Everyone thinks they're different than the mass media. How? They're just as divided and conflicted as everyone else. They're loose to do it, and there's 4 million of them rather than 5 channels. And the bigger ones have ads, and the bigger ones have to cater to money and have to cater to, like, we think we built something new, but we just slowly grew into the same thing that we said we despised. All the spiritual people who left religion behind because it was too much dogma and structure. Well, then they just turned spirituality into much structure and just as much dogma. You got to do this or you're not going to get there. You have to meditate. You have to do this. You got to cut capitalism off. Money's for the birds. What are we doing? We're just doing the same thing. So my ultimate question is, heads is religion, tails is spirituality. Perfectly fine. Choose whatever you want. Where'd the coin come from? That's it.
I just
That's
keep
it.
coming back to that. Where'd the coin come from? And when I when I allow myself somehow to fall in the trap of debating people about stuff, current affairs, which I desperately try not to, um, because I like to bring on both sides. But you're right, podcasts are funny. We didn't change anything. If you're hard left, you watch MSNBC. If you're hard right, you watch Fox. Same thing with podcasts. I mean, you're not learning anything new. If you believe that just Charlie Kirk is your variety, you're gonna listen to Charlie Kirk. If you're on the other side, you're gonna listen to Gavin Newsom. But when I do allow myself to get in these debates with people, I try to go back as far as I can
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, let's look at 4,500 years ago. Let's look at 5,000 years ago. Let's look at societies from the Romans to the Egyptians, the Mayans. Let's go back as far as we can. You'll see the same shit. You'll
Mm-hmm.
see the same divisions. You'll see the same fighting. You'll see
Yes.
people killing each other. You'll see people trying to take other people. I mean, you'll see the same shit. So,
Mm-hmm.
how far back do we have to go to start learning something, to see something with your meditation and your healer and from what you're doing with your book and your teaching? I mean, how far back do we need to find consciousness again? Or do we go
We don't.
forward?
Yeah, we don't go anywhere. It's right here. What is consciousness? Wise fish swimming in the ocean swims by two young fish and says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" The two young fish look at each other and say, "What's water?"
I love that. I saw
So
that on your
so
on your LinkedIn and it just makes me
so
giggle every time I look at it. What's
you and
water?
I are swimming in it right now. Your listeners are swimming in it. Republicans are swimming in it. Democrats are swimming in it. Catholics are swimming in it. It's not a going back. It's about what you just said. So we've been doing this since the beginning of humanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Okay. Let's try something new. Let's try neutrality. Let's really start to dig into these questions, into the answers that I have, into consciousness, into neutrality. Neutrality is the next power. Do you know anybody who's neutral?
Today,
Mm-hmm.
very few,
Yeah.
very few. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if
And
they
if
are,
and
they're Amish or they just plain old don't have a cell phone, a television, or a radio, right?
exactly, exactly. Imagine how priceless that is for politics, for companies, and for individuals.
So
I think
so
most
that's
priceless
the
thing in the world.
consciousness. That's your consciousness chief. That's your the guy who will come in and just let all the red ants and black ants fight and do their stuff and be overwhelmed and get into the overwhelm and the craziness. And then you just have someone that you bring in and say, well, I'm not going to try to change anything you guys are doing or what you guys believe in or how this works, but I'm just going to bring to you what I believe will be more helpful if you want to move forward with whatever goals you have.
Yeah, and it would be very specific. So if everyone, all this incredibly intelligent Harvard grad executives are like this, and someone comes in like the CCO and expands this, even for selfish reasons, if I'm a CEO and I can be better at strategy and know what next industry I need to go in because of my expanded awareness, okay, there you go. For HR to hire different level individuals better for the company that may gel better, there you go. For marketing who's stunted on creative ideas, you expand your awareness, you have more creativity. Sales, manufacturing, finances, customer service, middle management, everyone in the company goes from here to here. They will have personally access to more information, to more solutions, to more answers. Who the hell in the company wouldn't want that? So you're expanding everyone's awareness on their own. So there's no third party. You're just saying this is what consciousness is. This is the question. Heads or tails? Well, they're the same. Okay, there you go. Where'd the coin come from? Planting that seed. The universe is an incredible gardener. As soon as that seed's planted, as soon as that conversation's had, as soon as they understand the power of this position, this individual will not have enough time in the day because everyone's going to want access to them because you're seeing the whole picture. You're giving them basically like a chat GPT of consciousness. They're seeking advice and information from people they trust. Well, the people they trust think like they do, have the same beliefs, and they're both cut off from 50% of the world because they chose a side. You have access to someone inside the company who gives you access to 100%. That's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful.
You see some corporations, though, that, especially nowadays, and especially the last 4 years, probably more than ever, um, who believe that they are ultimately conscious. You see like an Apple or Google or some of these massive corporations, right, that are like, we are all accepting. We have full consciousness. We're doing only good for the world, and all of our beliefs are what you should all believe because we are the omnipower. I mean, and you see these corporations that how would you go to a corporation like that and go, you're full of bullshit, and let's let's step aside from that because you really are only focusing on one side, but you believe that that is how we should all be, we should all do. And maybe that doesn't work for everybody.
So for the last 20 years, a lot of companies like that have they've been the first, and now most companies do, small, medium, large. They have wellness programs, right?
Mm.
Okay, for the last 20 years, we've crammed wellness programs down all these companies. Again, we've never been more divided and conflicted. What we missed in the West is we have a lot of Catholics, a lot of Baptists, a lot of atheists, and a lot of Christian religions. When these wellness programs came in with some tree hugging hippie that told everyone to meditate, they thought it was Buddhism and they were immediately turned off by it. So just because you implemented a wellness program at Google or Apple and everything else, and because they have sleep pods and meditation pods and they give everyone free dinner and everything else, that's all. My God, I'd love to work there. That sounds incredible. But the ultimate question is, how is it looking? How is it working? Why is there so much division and conflict? Why is there still so much pain and suffering and the retention rates are down and burnouts through the roof in every one of these companies? What am I missing? So it wouldn't be going in and threatening, like, you're full of bullshit and everything else. I would ask those questions just so they could come to like my teacher. My teacher had me read everything under the sun, not to cram my head full of knowledge because it was already overwhelmed. He wanted me to read it for me at some point in the future to get to my own recollection that, holy shit, this is all coming from the same source. How could I choose a side? How could I have a belief that I'm right and they're wrong? How could I possibly do that? So bringing awareness to that understanding to these companies, to these executives is what we need. Now, to the people who um, the coaches and the consultants that do conscious leadership, conscious management, conscious capitalism, what they're teaching is right. The people who teach it, very intelligent. But again, what am I missing? Why are the companies still so divided and conflicted? Because they're focusing on the executives. And do you think the executives really understand what conscious leadership is being taught by someone probably has a little bit more clarity than them? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if they usually don't, do you think it's going to trickle down to the entire company? Or is it actually going to create more division and conflict because now the executives feel like they have awareness, but they may not, and they treat the employees differently. Everything's energy. So they say, well, I'm conscious now. I'm going to be nicer to my employees. The employees know how full of shit you are. And that's actually going to cause, that's going to be worse.
Yeah.
They just want you to be authentic. If you're an asshole, if you really push your employees to be better, and then all of a sudden you're kind, do you really think that's going to work? That's like me trying to get rid of my ego, rid of my passion. It didn't work well.
Doesn't
It
work well.
actually
Well, we've got
caused
proof of
division.
that. You look at, I think his name's Dr. Singh, who owns the LA Times, and Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, right? Both of them tried to say, hey, we've kind of gone a little off the rails here. We're supposed to be a news organization. So let's tone it down a little bit. Bezos with the Washington Post and his opinion section, he said, you guys got to tone this down a little bit. And like 100 people quit the next day. And then the same thing with Dr. Singh for the LA Times. It was like he said, I'm not going to endorse any candidates, and these people just lost their shit, right? And so they were all
Mm-hmm.
bailing out. So
Mm-hmm.
even if so you look at the owners of these companies, the CEOs. I mean, in that case, they actually own the whole freaking company. They're not just a
Yeah.
CEO, and they make a conscious decision to go, hey, maybe we should just try to be neutral and actually report just news. And you've got these dyed in the wool, these deep, deep, deep dug in, corporations that have been for 100 years, like the LA Times. For the LA Times to make a turn in any other direction than they're going would be impossible. It'd be an
Mm-hmm.
impossibility.
Yeah, it would. Yes, it would. So,
I mean, I mean, the New York Times. The New York Times, it would just be impossible. So, I mean, can you go to these companies? Can you go to some of these and say, you're bleeding so much money, CNN and New York Times and all these others, it, if you chose to, you could turn this around
we
by
could
not
see.
going right or left or not, changing direction, but just, like you said, just opening up the consciousness and just doing good work.
I think with the system we've built and the sponsorships and the companies that are ingrained with these organizations that keeps the lights on at CNN and Fox, maybe it's not possible. I don't know for sure, but I sure as hell know that it would be a step in the right direction to bring someone like me on to talk about things in a different way. Even if it was for selfish optic reasons, I'll Trojan horse that shit in all day long. I don't care because I'm sure many people will be like, oh, you're selling out or you're doing cool, whatever you think, man. I really don't care. But like if it's an oil company or an eco-friendly company or CNN or Fox, or it's a Republican or a Democrat, or it's this company or that company, if they're willing to hire a CCO, again, even possibly for selfish reasons, I promise you, I will make an impact. And the CCO in the future, the CCOs that we're training, the university program that we're putting together, and the individuals that are across my path that want to be this position, they will make an impact because it is an absolute shift in dynamics. Absolute shift in dynamics. Because you're teaching, you're helping people understand their own bias and conditioning, ripping it all away. And it's a full time position. It's not a 2 week program with the executives. It's not a 4 week program with mid level management. It's 12 months a year, 365 days for this individual to be there at the watering hole with customer service, with the executives, with mid level managers, doing emails, traveling, in the meetings, talking about strategy, helping HR hire. It's a full time position. And that position would impact any company.
You talk about, the neutrality, individual position, bringing an organization will dramatically increase the creativity, open-minded solutions, employees, and leaders that need to keep up in the increasingly fast-changing landscape. You talk about AI, what's happening, find the blind spots. So, what does this look like? I mean, what does this look like? You sit down with Jeff Bezos and go, look, dude, you're bleeding. I know you're one of the richest men in the world, but you'd still, I'm sure, like your organization to be successful. So, just to use that as an example, it could be anybody, but um, how does that go about? I mean, how do you go into to someone who's obviously been doing something for a long time? CEOs are pretty powerful people, big egos, and try to change that awareness a little bit or bring awareness to them maybe in a
Yeah,
different way.
we're not gonna change anything. It would depend on the individual, but there'd be a lot of questions and a lot of observing. That's it. Just like the individual I'm working with now that's trying to take over, not take over, but shift $3.7 trillion of healthcare. That's a big ask. Someone who is another individual that I'm working with that is understands how lonely we are in such a connected world. Like the stats on loneliness and how alone we are and disconnected we are in such a connected world is frightening.
Yeah.
Frightening because we think we have access to it, just like we've spent more money on happiness, yet we've never been so unhappy. There's a lot of questions and a lot of observing. And then when that happens, then there's just a subtle comment I make, like the
Where
coin
does
comment.
Yeah. Where does fear come in on this? I mean, how much fear do these CEOs have as far as trying to, like you said, not make a shift? You're not trying to change anything. You're just trying to help them maybe see things differently in the future. Um, where does fear come into all this? Because these guys just every quarter, we're not like the Chinese where we plan 100 years out. We like plan every, 30 days or we're screwed, right? What, how fearful are these people that try to look at things differently?
It's like trying to convince an atheist that there's God, or a Republican that the Democrats are right. There's fears in everything. It's just the system. It's the best thing we've known. We're doing the best we can. The system we've built is built off of fear and scarcity. So fear is everything. And there's a lot of confident CEOs that would say no, that's not the case, and they would probably be right with how they view the world, how confident they are, and how successful they've been. Why would there be any fear? But if we get to the root of the issue as to why they built that success, why they've got such a large company, why they have control over things, it would come down to fear. But this is not a therapy session because some people are fearful, some are not. Some have awareness, some are not. This is just about bringing awareness to the shift that's happening on this planet, and that if they keep doing things the same way, because all I would ask is, how's the company looking? Oh, we're profitable. How's the burnout? Oof. How's the retention? Oh boy. How's the division and conflict in the world, in the inside your company, on the outside? Well, I can't disagree with you. It's never been so bad. Okay. Can I ask some different questions then? Can I bring a shift in awareness to you? Can I talk to you about consciousness? Can I talk to you about what that is? Can I talk to you about the coin? Can I talk to you about the root of the issue rather than the leaf? Can I talk to you about the millions of dollars you spent over the last 10 years with conscious leadership consultants? What about your wellness program? I think that's all great. They're all right decisions. All the people teaching them are incredibly intelligent. Why is everyone so divided and conflicted still? Why is there so much chaos in your organization and the outside? Just asking different questions. Because if I'm a consultant or a coach, I'm not going to bring attention to that. I'd lose my job.
Yeah.
And this position is not a replacement for HR or the chief people officer. It is not a replacement for the coaches or the consultants. If you have an expanded awareness, you have a larger awareness. You have access to space for more information. So when a coach or a consultant does come in, the chances of the employees absorbing this information, understanding it, and actually utilizing it skyrocket. This position opens shit up for everything the company does from this point forward. It is not a threat to any one position, any one employee, or anyone they would hire in the future to make their people better. It would.
Well, I'd imagine most wellness people who come in and set up a wellness thing for a corporation or a motivational speaker in the corporation or a trainer or a coach or something like that, therapist inside the corporation is mostly focused on keeping the status quo. They don't want to be too step outside the line too much either way because it's a great gig. They make a lot of money and they want to stay there. So
Yeah.
they're probably not making a lot of changes. And what you're talking about is, 10 times what you bring to the table, 100 times what you bring to the table. Where these guys not anything against those people, but I mean, they won't move the needle necessarily at all.
They, have they? Again, like you said, I'm not trying to stop them. They're incredibly smart people, very charismatic. They have a lot of power behind them. But when you say, like, they've got great testimonials on their websites, and everyone, when they're coming off that stage, or the companies are coming off that event for the first couple of days, there's a lot of energy, a lot of adrenaline. Man, this feels good. Does it last? Does it last? How can a
Of
4 month
course not.
program, or how can a 1 month program with the executives last all 12 months to the full company? This position is full time, working on that full time, answering questions full time, helping people understand what this shift is full time. Speakers, coaches, consultants, they're still going to do what they do. They do an incredible job. But how's it working? It just doesn't seem to be, because we're not going one step deeper. And again, it's not a replacement. It's not a get out of here. It's just someone in the organization that opens people up so they can accept that speaker. So what that coach and consultant does bring to the organization lasts longer, is implemented more, utilized more. It's a powerful position, priceless position, if you ask me.
So, what is the consciousness training? So, you're taking folks, because there's only one of you. I mean, you can only consult with so many corporations. So, you're training people with your modalities to now go in and meet corporations. And is it a process where it's your company and these people work under you? Do these people come independent contractors? How does that system work with the consciousness training?
So we have individuals that want to become a CCO, and we are working with them. So when companies start hiring, and it's going to be soon, they will be ready for them, because there's going to be a lot of companies that need to fulfill that position. We also have a program we're creating now that's a 12-month, very flushed out class to drastically alter the human so they're ready for this position. Kind of like on LinkedIn, you see Chicago University doing chief AI officer, and it's a
Hmm.
10-month program. We have that broken down by the week, by the month. It's incredible. And as this position becomes a staple in these companies, and they start to understand the center of humanity is consciousness, they're going to want someone. So there's going to be individuals, there's hunters that have crossed my path that's saying, how do I become this position? And then there's companies that probably have individuals inside their company already that are going to send them to us so we can help train them and turn them into a CCO. So for the individuals now, the university class probably is going to come out September-ish, very flushed out class. It's going to be a big deal. We don't know how we're going to keep up with it, because there's going to be a lot of people, but it's going to be very structured. It's going to be just like going to a university, just like the Chicago University Chief AI. Currently, right now, I'm working with individuals in just a month-long program just to do this, to flush out consciousness, to bring awareness to their bias, to their conditioning, to help them become more neutral, to have them ask me questions, and to help them realize that that question of, is it this or that? Well, the mind's asking this or that. It's both. Just like the conversation you and I are having, the questions you're asking me, the consciousness training is, again, priceless for individuals as the planet moves forward in such division and chaos. Because if we keep doing the same consulting, the same self development, the same books we read, if we don't get to the level of consciousness, not just the mind, because that's all we're working on, mental, 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 mental. We get to consciousness, we do this training. It changes everything in your life. It changes how you are at work, how you are at the grocery store, how you are with your wife or husband, how you are with your kids, how you seek conflict, how you approach someone. Changes everything.
Yeah.
So if there's listeners, it's just message me. You'll love it.
Where do you see it going? I mean, there's a great saying that I love from, I think it was Terminator 2, when the kid, I guess, who ends up becomes John Connor, the man, says, we're not going to make it, are we, as people? Uh, and I think about that saying a lot from that line, because I watch just the craziness. I mean, just the amount of the triggeredness. Like, you can say something that's not, you would think it wasn't really offensive or wouldn't be triggering, and yet someone will just light their hair on fire and just go crazy on you, and you say, well, I didn't even think that was a big, I mean, what do you see? I mean, is there any light at the end of the tunnel, or is it a train?
It's always darkest before the dawn. So if you understand the universe and understand consciousness, you understand that before creation comes destruction. So
Wait,
the
wait, before what? Wait, say that again?
before creation comes destruction.
Oh, or creation
So
construction.
before creation comes destruction, because something needs to be broken apart into creation. So when you see just pure chaos, you realize we're closer than ever before of a massive, massive breakthrough in a good way, in a really good way. Now something that's creating more division more quickly than ever before, AI. If that doesn't show you how quickly division's created, there's people that are for it and there's people who are hell bent against it. That division, my God, that was immediate. That was, my God, that didn't take 1,000 years of being Christian, or it didn't take 100 years of being Republican or Democrat. Like AI came out and you just immediately saw division. If that doesn't show you how humanity works and how badly we need to shift it, including the technology and the AI, that's another part of this chief consciousness officer, bringing the humanity back into humans. All of this chaos to me shows how close we are to a massive breakthrough in a good way. Because this is what's a necessity to break down all the shit that created all the chaos. And I'm not a money's for the birds. I don't think capitalism needs to go away. I don't think any of this needs to go away. We just need to be aware of it, because the structure behind business and capitalism is incredible. The humans involved in it and how they run it, they're the ones that are fucked up. They're the ones that cause the division. They're the ones that create the evilness. It's not money. It's not capitalism. It's not the business. It's the people behind it and their bias and their conditioning and how they see the world, cutting themselves off from 50%. So it's not a either or type of, like, the questions that all asked are at the level of the mind. So it's an either or. Is it going to work or is it not? Is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Both. Both. But it's darkest before the dawn. There's going to be a lot of chaos this year, but it's going to be a necessity to force people to change, to do something different.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to suck.
That's the real billion-dollar question, is trillion-dollar question. Now, if we talk about trillions like they're nothing anymore, but um, will people take what you're saying and people pick up your book? Um, will people be willing to set aside the anger and the division, to stop for a second and find that middle ground, find that reality, find that consciousness? I mean,
I'm not, again, a tree hugging hippie that's utopic and thinks we're going to take everyone to the mountain and everyone's going to pick the same side. What I do understand is levels of consciousness and clarity on this planet. And what we can do is we can take someone who's in fifth grade and push them to sixth or seventh. If I'm a CEO or if I'm anyone in this world, do you want fifth graders or seventh graders? They're a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more self-sufficient. They're a better communicator, a little bit older. They don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. The shift on this planet is going to be massive, but it's going to be subtle, and it's going to take people from second to third grade, fourth to sixth, maybe from junior high to high school. That shift right there will not have them choose sides. They'll still be the same side. What it will do, it will shrink and minimize the division and the conflict. That's all we can do. If we think we're all at the same level of clarity, and that everyone, because of consciousness, and this is a rising tide brings up all ships, if we all think it's all love and that everyone is going to jump onto that same ship at the same level and think the same things, you have a very unrealistic expectation. What we can understand, though, is we can work towards minimizing division and conflict so less of this chaos happens. And that's what we'll see.
that's awesome, Charlie. You've been amazing. I mean, time just is flying here, so I know you got a hard break. I'm gonna get you out of here, but I just have one question, and then I just want to get you out your book and the different stuff you're doing. But uh, I always have one question. Oh, I got one question about a lie. I got two questions. So my last question would be, is there something, a thought that you have, a saying, a strong belief? Is there something before we sign off that you would like to leave us with that's important to Charley Johnson that you'd like to leave us with as we wander off into the consciousness here?
Look up consciousness. Just start to get to understand it more. Truly, as vague as that is, just Google it. Don't tell your family if you think it's weird. Don't tell your business if you think it's weird. Don't just Google it. Start to understand how fundamental it is to your existence, fundamental to where you came from, your physical body, where your thoughts come from, where consciousness is, what it is, how you access it. Just look it up. Just that's it. That's all we just need to bring awareness to that, because all we've known is the mind. The mind is a divided tool. So the mind has to pick a side. If that's all we've known, we're a slave to it. You go one step deeper to consciousness, you get to use it the correct way. You get to use it rather than it using you. Google consciousness, understand consciousness, start to get to know it better, see what's going on with it. And then I assume in the show notes, the best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn. You can see the conversation that's having about this position, what it is, what it's not, and you can message me. You can start doing the training. It's priceless.
So your book, Truth Has No Sides, is on Amazon.
Mhm.
Uh, I just went down the rabbit hole with it, and it's just got some great stuff. It reminds me a lot of stuff that Augmendino would write, or some of these other great philosophers who would write something told kind of what he's been given from someone else. Um, uh, and I just love that. One of my favorite books in the world, it just was blank. It just reminded Dan Millman, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Kind of had a
Mm.
little, you ever read Way of the Peaceful Warrior?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Pick it up. It's great. I mean, your book kind of gave me that vibe. I liked it
Okay.
very much. So, Charlie Johnson, you're great, man. I really appreciate your time. I know you got to get out of here, but everybody, go to LinkedIn, look up Charlie. Go to Amazon, get The Truth Has No Sides, because man, everyone needs to read that right now. And look more into this consciousness. I mean, in the consciousness training, because wow, I hope we are turning that corner, brother, because we sure need it, because
Yeah,
there's a
we
lot
do.
of hurt out there. So
Yeah, we do.
I
I
can't
agree.
thank you enough, man, for coming on and sharing your time with us.
Well, thank you for having this conversation and allowing your listeners part of it.
You got it, buddy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. You just had a smidgen of Charlie Johnson. Look for him in an upcoming podcast. So what if you could podcast, and go to LinkedIn and look up Charlie Johnson and get that book. I think you guys will love it. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.